should treat these conversations that we have as being private between the four of us until Kerry and the rest of us, but primarily Kerry, says that it's okay with us to do something different with it. And what that different might be, I might want to post it on the website along with the kinds of things that I have already done. I wouldn't do that without making sure that it was all right with Kerry and with everybody else. So, but that's at least in the realm of possibility. And I think Mel and Julian might have other interests possibly down the road, which they could talk about now or talk about down the road, whichever. But
yeah, possibly editing it for shorter segments. Not sure where it would go, YouTube or something like that.
Yeah, and then likewise, Kerry, as I've discussed with you, I think I'm still not sure about how this project takes its form, but certainly there is a chance that this goes somewhere, and particularly in podcast form at the moment, I think. But ultimately, this is like a developmental piece for me, but could go public in some form, but that's definitely something that we would keep you across.
Awesome. Yeah, all of the above sounds really interesting and fun, so I'm just along for the ride.
And the task for us today is to figure out exactly what we're going to do, which I think, at least in the broadest strokes, is going to be you're going to wear a beeper and get a half a dozen beeps or so, and then we're going to get together and talk about those beeps. And how we're going to talk about those beeps, I don't think we've actually worked out. It could be that Julian and I will be doing the interviewing, or it could be that Mel and Julie and I will be doing the interviewing, or it could be that Julie and I will start out doing the interviewing, and then when Mel feels comfortable, she can participate in the interviewing. But it's going to be something like you could say 2 or 3 against 1, which doesn't sound too fair, but you could also say that it's 4 against 1, or four of us, all of us trying with the same goal, I think, and that goal is to try to grasp something of Kerry's inner experience the way she experiences it. And that's basically the whole project. The whole project is pretty simple-minded kind of a thing. It is, let's see whether we can see Kerry from the inside in the way that Kerry herself only ever gets a chance to see it, and then the rest of us get a privileged to get a glimpse or 6 a day into those.
Both exciting and terrifying at the same time. Can't wait.
Well, we will try to minimize the terrifying portion of it, but there is an unknown aspect of it, and I would say that we talked a bit ago about you having control over the recordings of this, but you also have control over all aspects of it, actually. If a beep occurs and it's about something that you don't want to talk about, you should say, I don't want to talk about it. I've got things that are none of your business. You've got things that are none of my business. And you shouldn't feel obligated to reveal something that you don't want to reveal, or to say something that you don't want to say, or whatever. On the other side of that coin, I would say that if we talk about a sample, it's generally better to talk about the whole sample rather than hold back some piece of it. So if there's something that occurs on a sample that you don't want to talk about, we should let's skip this sample rather than try to hide some portion of the sample. Because if you try to hold back some portion, then we might circle around trying to figure out what's going on.
Wait, so can you clarify that? Sorry. With the sample, if there's something that I don't want to speak about, it's not, are you saying I shouldn't discount the whole beeping session? It's just that one point, right?
What I'm saying is skip that entire sample. So a sampling day is going to have like 6 samples in it.
Got it.
And if on sample number 2, there is something that you don't want to talk about, I would say, let's skip sample number 2. Rather than hold back some aspect of sample number 2 and try to talk about the rest of sample 2 without delving into that portion of it. But I would say everything that we're going to talk about is something that we will get better at as we go along. So I don't think we have to be too clear about anything today. Our task is to have a sort of a sketch today about what's going to happen. And then we'll try to do it. And then after we've done it, or while we're doing it, then we will refine our ability to do it better and answer questions that we've got. So there's no necessity that we have a perfect understanding at this moment of what's going to happen. Nobody ever has a perfect understanding, and we will develop the details as we go along.
Sounds good.
So do you have any particular questions that you want to ask before we describe how the beeper works and that kind of stuff?
I mean, I think my only question, which I went over with Mel previously, but I basically was like, what's most helpful? Like, what should I write down? And she was sort of like, anything that you think is going to be best. So I assume that that's correct, but I like doing things the right way. So if there's anything that's most helpful for you guys to know, for me to write down after each beep, I would love to know, but I have a feeling that you're going to say whatever I think.
Kerry did the same thing that I did, Russ, where it was like, tell me what you want to know. And I was like, no, there's no guide. We give you no instruction there.
Yeah, the project, what we want to know is about what Kerry's experience is like at the moment of a beep. So you're going to get a beep, and right 1 microsecond just before that beep occurred, that's the moment that we're interested in. And we would like you to develop the skills of telling us about that moment of your experience. And we don't know how to do that because we don't know what your experience is like. So we can't tell you what is important because we don't know what's important. We can't tell you how to do it really because we don't really know what is necessary for you to tell us about that. That's part of we call the iterative method. We're going to get better at that. You're going to take a stab at it, and then we're going to ask you some questions, and you're going to say, well, if I had known you were going to ask that question, then I would have written down this. But then next time we will be better about that.
Got it. Okay.
But we don't know what to tell you. And even if we did know what to tell you, I would prefer not to tell you because that would then, let's say I told you, well, I'm interested in words. And then you would say, well, yeah, I got to keep track of words. But I'm not particularly interested in words. I'm interested in words if words happen to be in your inner experience. But if they're not, then I'm not interested in words at all. So it's hard to know what to tell you about your inner experience.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure I'll have more questions as we go through. But yeah, I would love to hear just like your general spiel, and then we can go from there.
I was going to say, Kerry, isn't it just a wonderfully frustrating, in a way, thing? You're like, I get it, but you're not satisfying my perfectionism complex. Like,
how do I get an A+?
Yeah.
Well, we're looking for a C+ on day one, and then a B- on day two, and A- or whatever on day three. But it's not possible. It's just not possible. We have to develop a little bit of patience, I guess, about that. So the deal is, you have the beeper there.
I do. Yes.
All right. And I see you got the earphone plugged into it. And so let's make sure we understand the operation of the beeper. Let's stick the earphone in your ear and does the earphone have a hook on it?
Yes, it's hooked behind.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And that hook has probably some flexibility to it, so you can squeeze it on or whatever to make it as secure as it can get. And some people find that the running the wire for the earphone down inside your shirt is easier because then the wire doesn't snag on the doorknob as you walk by or whatever. Right. But how you deal with that is up to you. So let's turn on the beeper by sliding the thumb wheel, rolling the thumb.
I mean,
and is it beeping?
It's just a consistent long beep.
Good. Now push the white button.
Okay.
And that stops the beep.
Yeah.
Good. So that means the beeper is probably working correctly. And the beeper has decided when it's going to beep again. And that might be a minute from now, and it might be 59 minutes from now, and it might be 26 minutes from now. Some number of minutes between beeps is chosen randomly by the beeper. It's not something that we decide. It's not something that you decide. The beeper basically makes up its own mind when it's going to beep again. It's supposed to be within an hour, but it could be any time within that next hour.
And it's 6 beeps throughout one session, you said?
Correct. So what we want you to do is to pick a time when you can wear the beeper, and we don't care when that is. We don't care what you're doing when you're doing it. We want you to be doing your normal everyday activities. So you can be working or going to the grocery store or cleaning house or whatever it is that you do. Put the beeper on. Get us 6 beeps, and we prefer that you get them all in sort of one session. But there are, we don't have any hard and fast rules about that. If something happens in the middle of a session and I can't do this anymore, for whatever reason, take it out, go do whatever it is that you have to do and put it back in. It's generally easier for everybody concerned, better if you can do it all in one shot. But if you can't, no big deal. And your task, did we also get you a notebook? Do you have a notebook?
No, I think most likely I'll just use a note in my phone, if that's okay. Or if you prefer me to write it down, I'm happy to write it down as well.
So what I prefer is to have you do it in a way, this is going to be the same, but I prefer you do it in a way which maximizes your ability to tell us about your inner experience. If that's in the phone, that's fine with me. If you can take a piece of paper, a regular 8.5 or A4 paper or whatever, and fold it up in quarters or something and stick it in your pocket and jot down, if that allows you to grasp what's going on in your inner experience better, then I would rather have you do it that way. But I don't know. That's up to your skills with phones and paper and whatever. But your task, so the thing beeps when it beeps, your task is to try to freeze, what we call freeze, pay attention to what was going on 1 microsecond just before the beep occurs, just before you were interrupted by the beep, and then stop the beep and then take down some notes about that so that you can answer our questions about that experience.
Got it.
What you write in those notes is between you and you. We're not going to ask to look at those notes probably. If some people can do it in one word, and some people write a whole narrative, and some people prefer to audio record it, and some people prefer to write it down. And sometimes we follow people around and ask them what's to report right then. That's the hard way, but we sometimes do it that way. But the object is for us to have a conversation about your experience that was going on 1 microsecond just before the beep began. The mechanics of how we do that is sort of a negotiation between us. Is that? Are we still? Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know what the lightning sound there was, but too many electrons. So we'd like about 6 beeps. We don't need exactly 6 beeps, 5 beeps, 7 beeps, whatever. We say we like about 6 beeps because it generally takes us about an hour to talk about 6 beeps, and talking for an hour is probably what we should always shoot for. We may go a few minutes over an hour or whatever sometimes, but sometimes under an hour. But it's hard work. These interviews are sort of hard work for everybody involved. So we're looking to talk about a half a dozen beeps. So what I would say, assuming that we're still going to do this, we should figure out when we're going to do it. When are we going to meet next time?
I'm not sure. Have we picked a day? I don't think we have.
No.
We have not.
It's going to be really fun with 4 time zones, isn't it? We're getting really tricky here.
What did we decide that 5 or the guess 5 or 6 for me, which is 8 or 9 for Russ. You started at 9 today or 8?
This is 9 o'clock for me, 9:15.
Okay, this is 9. So I guess this time.
So this time or an hour earlier is probably the time we're shooting for if we can do it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, does this exact day and time work next week? Let's start there.
As in next Friday?
Yeah.
Next Friday. Let's see.
So that would be Friday the 24th.
It does work.
Works for me.
Thursday is better for me than Fridays generally. I could do Friday
Thursday
if
would
needed.
work for me.
Does Thursday same time work?
That works for me.
Friday's
Thursday.
Definitely my preference next week just because I'm going to shoot in Boston, but I could make Thursday work if I had to.
Well, let's go Friday for next week.
Only if it works for you, Kerry, though.
Yeah.
Friday the 24th at the same time as today.
Perfect.
That would be great. Sorry, Julian. And then I promise I can do Thursdays. It's just next week. I'll be traveling
6 p.m.
from Boston.
All right.
Okay, so now we have taken one of the parameters out of the equation. So now what we would like you to do, Kerry, is to wear the beeper sometime on next Thursday or Friday early morning if you're an early morning person or whatever. But sometime in that sort of 24-hour window before next Friday, I guess your time is like 11 o'clock. Is it? We just or 12 o'clock noon or
My time, I think this meeting started at 10 a.m. So
10 a.m.
Yeah.
So probably sometime on Thursday we want you to wear the beeper, and we don't care what time it is. And 24 hours is not a hard and fast rule. If it's 26 hours, that'd be fine or whatever. We generally say it's not a good idea to sleep on the beeps twice. So sometime on Thursday, then you can sleep on Thursday night, and then Friday morning we'll talk about it or whatever. But anyway, sometime on Thursday, we would like you to wear the beeper and get us a half a dozen-ish beeps.
cool.
And jot down notes about them and come prepared on Friday to talk about what those six samples will be. And the conversation will be approximately, well, Kerry, at the first beep, what was in your experience? And then you will tell us, and then we will answer some questions. And we'll probably have a primary interviewer, but it's a tag team kind of a deal that we will pass the interviewing responsibilities along. And I guess we could decide now, Mel, do you want to be a part of a rotation there, or do you want to hang back and watch it happen for a while and join in when the spirit moves you? Or?
Yeah, something like that, I think. I anticipate just more being a fly on the wall, certainly for the first few weeks. And then if I feel like I could lob up some questions and partake, then I will. But I think from a research perspective, for me, my objective is to be not Kerry for once, and then so observe it as like a third party almost. And then if I feel like later as we progress, I could then observe it from the perspective of Russ and Julian, then I would join in. But at this stage now, I'll just be a silent participant, I think.
That's okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is the case that everybody who comes into these things always has some different motivations, and they intersect sort of like a Venn diagram around an interest in Kerry's experience. Mm-hmm. But everybody's got somewhat of a different motivation for why they might be interested in, and therefore what role they want to play in it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That's basically the procedure. I guess a couple more things about the beeper. When you're done with the beeper for a session, you should turn it off by by rolling the thumb wheel in the opposite direction until it clicks.
Yep.
And have we done that?
Does it beep? Oh, wait. Does it beep right before you turn it off, or did it just beep just then?
If you wiggle the
wheel.
If you wiggle the wheel, it sometimes beeps.
Okay.
The wheel has a switch within it.
Got it.
And if you wiggle it, but I would like to tell you a couple more things about the operator before you take the. Yeah. So now hold the white button down. Hold the white button down and keep it down, and then turn it on.
Oh wait. Oops. Okay. Keep it down and then turn it on while I'm holding it down.
Yeah. And it should play a little song to you, go dee 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 dee, something like that. You don't need to worry about that. That's the beeper telling me, basically, or telling whoever can hear that, what's going on inside the beeper. There's some switches that you can set that tells the parameters of the beep, and that is the beeper externalizing those parameters. The first beep says it's the first three beeps, I guess, first three tones say how long the intervals are, and then the next tone says whether it's fixed intervals or random intervals or whatever. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But there are parameters that are, so I don't have to open up the box and look at the switches. I make it sing to us when you hold the white button down. But I'm telling you, the only reason you need to know that is I don't want you to be disturbed if by some reason you turn it on and you hear those noises and you think, well, something's wrong here.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And then the other noise that the beeper will make, which maybe you will never hear, is that if you leave it on and walk away from it, sometime 3 minutes from now or 30 minutes from now or whatever, it's going to beep. And it'll continue to beep. As you notice, the beep is a long beep. Beep will continue to beep for about a minute. I forget exactly how long I programmed it to do it, but it beeps for a pretty long time, and then it stops beeping because the beep is what runs the battery down. The thing doesn't, batteries don't discharge much except when it's beeping. So if it beeps and you don't respond to it, it will stop beeping, and then it will tell you that I beeped and I didn't respond, and you didn't respond to me. It'll tell you that by having what I call the chirp, and it'll go chirp, and then 30 seconds later it'll go chirp, and 30 seconds after that it'll go chirp, more or less like a smoke detector does when the battery is low or something, if you can figure that. So if you hear that kind of a sound, that means the beeper is on, but you didn't turn me off when you were done. And if that happens, just turn it off and then turn it back on again when you're ready. Its normal operation, which is probably all you'll ever hear, is when you turn it on, it comes on beeping, and you push the white button, and that'll stop the beep. And then 29 minutes later, it will beep again, and you'll freeze your inner experience and stop the beep and jot down some notes about the inner experience.
Cool.
There's also a volume control. Let's turn it off and back on again so it comes on beeping. And the wheel has the wheel, spinning the wheel gives you some control over the volume.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
So we would want you to set the volume to where it's sort of comfortable to you so that it's not so loud that it startles you, but it's not so soft that you think, well, is that the beep? Is that the beep? Oh yeah, that's the beep. Because by then you've sort of lost track of what was in your experience when the thing beeped. Yeah. And that might take some practice, because when you're in a loud environment, then you'll want it loud, and if you're in a soft environment, then you'll want it soft. And so there is one more feature of the beep. So is the thing on? Is the beeper on?
Yeah, it was beeping, and then I paused it.
Okay, so let's see whether it's on or off by pushing the white button down and holding the white button down. And tell me what happened.
It beeped, paused, beeped, paused, beeped, paused.
That's what I call the square wave. It beeps and then it doesn't beep, and then it beeps and it doesn't beep. The purpose of the square wave is twofold. One is it tells you that the beeper is awake. When you hear that beep, when you push down the button and it sounds like that, basically it's saying, I'm awake, I'm still alive here. My earphone wire hasn't broken or whatever. And it allows you to set the volume. So if you move into a new environment and you want to check and see what the volume is, push that button down, adjust the volume to what's comfortable for you.
Great. Cool.
It won't beep. It won't give you a regular beep while you hold the white button down. Basically, holding the white button down suspends the normal operation of the beeper and allows you to check it out.
Cool.
So that's what the beeper does. Beeper is. If you've got questions about how the beeper operates, you can try it between now and next Thursday. You should feel free to experiment with it, however it is that you want to experiment with it. The only beeps that we would be interested in would be the ones that come from next Thursday. But if you wanted to try it between now and then, just to get the mechanics of how to deal with it you can feel free
Sure.
to do
Sounds
that.
good.
And if between now and next Thursday or whenever you change your mind about this whole process, now that you've heard us spiel and you've seen the way I look or whatever, you say, I don't want to have anything to do with him or them or whatever, then you should feel free to change your mind about this. So that should be you should be and feel like a free agent in this operation. And if you're not, if you don't want to do it, you should just not do it. And
I'm super comfortable and interested, so I feel good about it all. But I'll let you know if I change my mind.
I wasn't trying to talk you out of it. What I was trying to do is to make it abundantly clear that you are the controlling factor in this. And we want you to understand yourself as being the controlling factor. And if you've got suggestions for how we can do it better for you, you should tell us. It's a team sport, and you are a principal member of the team.
Thank you.
So I think basically that's what we need to convey. So now would be the time to ask whether Kerry's got questions about it or whether Julian or Mel think I have understated, overstated, forgotten, whatever.
I'm good.
I feel great.
We don't have a script, as you perhaps have noticed, and that's purposeful. It's not that we're just lazy, which probably, but I think that it's not possible to have the kind of understanding that we would like to have and have a script involved, because I would like to know what Kerry's experience is, the way Kerry's experience is, and I don't think I'm smart enough to be able to tell us how we go about getting that. I've got some opinions about it, but I got to hear from Kerry before we can talk about the fine points of the deal. So it could very well be that I've overlooked something or not emphasized something enough, and if that's the case, then we'll clean that up as we go. And
yeah, I think it's almost useful that there's no script because I feel like I can't really do it incorrectly. So I'm just going to do my best and hope it's helpful.
The chances are good that on the first day you will think, well, I didn't do it very good. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's just the way it is. It's sort of like swimming in the ocean or something. You got to walk in. You can't swim right when you first get to the water. You got to walk in for a while until you can swim without crashing into the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, as I said to you when I spoke to you, Kerry, it is like a bizarrely unique skill, and so it will take time. And it's this weird thing at this point of jumping into this unknown with no real parameters and feeling a bit that's sort of a weird thing to undertake, and you'll get better and you'll watch yourself evolve or like find different interest points or whatever. Like I went through this weird point as well of you don't really know what you're doing, but that is exactly the point. So,
right.
Yeah.
So maybe we ought to have a conversation about our interactions, because we have a sort of an unusual thing here in that Kerry and Mel have a relationship.
True.
And the question is, what should we do about that? And we could say, well, Kerry and Mel should not talk about this project at all. I don't think that's a good idea. But we could decide. I think we should decide. We should have a conversation about that. Which is what I'm initiating here. I think that's too strong. I think Mel should be able to say the kind of thing that Mel just said. But Mel is only one participant, and Mel's experience might not be the same as Kerry's, and so Kerry shouldn't expect to have the same kind of experience that Mel has, and Mel shouldn't expect Kerry to have the same kind of experience that she had. Could be very different, could be the same. And the less they talk about it, then the more they will be able to discover rather than presuppose what Kerry's experience is like.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think there actually should be a fairly hard and fast rule of, don't text me about any of this, Kerry, and we just chat about this when we're on these meetings and things like that. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep my yappity little mouth shut as much as possible.
So I think there is virtue in that.
Yeah.
I think to be too extreme about that might be a little bit of a mistake. What I would say specifically is that Kerry and Mel, or Kerry and Julian, or Kerry and Russ, for that matter, shouldn't talk about the beeps except when we're all together. Because any time that Kerry has talked about beep number 3, then she will that'll sort of take the energy out of talking about beep 3 for the rest of us or something like that. So I would say for sure let's not talk about individual beeps. Probably not a good idea to talk much about the process, because I think everybody would actually get more out of the process if everybody comes at it as excuse me, as cleanly or purely or whatever as possible.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, on my end,
but I don't want to be hard and fast. If you were to meet in some kind of a virtual party or whatever, and they would say, "Well, this is what I'm doing," and Mel said, "I was doing that too," or whatever. I wouldn't want to invoke some kind of a rule. Well, we can't.
So it's such a likely scenario, Russ. So I'm glad we covered.
Well, I don't know, Kerry. If you know, Kerry could be
really big on Zoom parties.
Could be.
Julian, you were going to say something?
Yeah. On my end, I don't feel a need personally to enforce something like that. Like, you should only talk about it, during the meetings or all together. I think it's fine if you two decide it's better, but I personally won't be enforcing it. But yeah, I think a little bit of chat is okay. And if you say something interesting that you think, oh, maybe we should have said this on camera, you could always bring that up or send it in an email. But I will say, me and Russ have also been having long back and forths. So we've been transcribing the interviews and then writing comments back and forth to each other. I think Mel's experience was like this, and Russ will say, I think you're wrong. It was more like this. So we've been having these sorts of conversations. And now with Mel in on it, and of course you too, Kerry, there's a question of if we want to keep those conversations deep in these transcripts, or if we just want to have them more just in emails, in email threads. It could be easier for everybody. So I think that's also something we could talk about if people have preferences.
Well, I think that misstates a little bit about what's happening, because the conversations that Julian and I have been having have been in the transcripts, but Mel has been
a blind party. Well, not a blind. I'm a silent party.
She has seen those.
Yeah.
She has seen those commentaries to the extent that she wants to see them.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
She hasn't participated for the most part in them, but it's not like Julian and I have been having private conversations. That's just not true. Julian and I have been having conversations which Mel has been present to the extent that she's wanted to be. And I think we would want to have transcripts of the Kerry interviews, and we can pass those back and forth and do the same kind of a thing that with Kerry as we did with Mel, which is to say, if we want to have a conversation, we should have a conversation, and Kerry can look at it or not, depending on how she wants to deal with that. If she wants to know what we're saying about the interviews, she can read them, and if she wants to, ignorance is bliss. whatever, she can do that. I don't actually know how much of the commentary Mel has looked at it. Could be all of it. It could be none of it. She could have found it interesting. She could have found it boring. I don't really know.
It depends how busy my week is. Like sometimes I read the whole thing and really deep dive and think, and then there might be 2 weeks where I see them come through and I don't even click on them. Like it depends on what other stuff we've got going on. But they're fascinating conversations.
So the transcript comes through on a weekly basis and you analyze it on a weekly basis and then sort of publish that, or how does that work?
So that's a good question. So basically what happens is that Julian has been making, and I presume since we're still on Zencastr, he's going to do it. He'll make a video and he'll send it to me as a video, and I will prepare a draft of a transcript, which I will have an AI organization called Temi do the first draft, and then I'll clean it up, and I might make some comments in that, and then send it back to Julian and Mel and Kerry, and Julian or Mel or Kerry and or whatever. If I have a comment, they might respond to it or whatever. Might clean up the transcript. But nothing would be made public until such time as we all agree that it would be made public. These things would be, as the video would be, the private property of the 4 of us. And then somewhere down the road, we might say, well, it's okay with us to make this public in this way. Then decision would be about the transcript and the video, or the video or the transcript, or however we wanted to do that.
Yep.
Cool.
So it's just sort of like an element of it that plays out in the background, Kerry, that you are like CC'd on and absolutely part of, but can be as part of as you wish, I guess, is sort of the thing.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
Like for your knowledge, like none of my stuff has gone public yet still, has it? Has it? No. Yeah. So like
I have made a draft of a website the way it might look for and I think it involves the first the interview like this, which we call interview 0.
Yeah.
And the first 2 interviews or something like that. I've made that and circulated it basically so Mel could see, well, this is what an interview would look like if it was on the web. This is what it would be.
Yeah.
But that was a private link that I've sent to them.
Yeah.
Yep,
We could talk about that a bit after this, even like talk about releasing it.
Oh, my stuff.
But probably we should deal with this current project first.
Yeah.
But how it would be released and when it would be released would be something that we would talk about, I think, appropriately after we know what we've got.
Yeah.
We don't know what your experience is going to be like. It could be that it would be something that we would think we should never release after we saw it, or it could be that it could be something that we would think would be very interesting for whatever reason, and we should try to get it out quickly.
Mm.
And
yep.
But so far we don't know anything about it, really.
Right.
Yep.
So I would say the main purpose of this interview is to sketch a very bright sunlight kind of a deal, so that Kerry can think, well, I can tell these guys about my experience and feel a little bit safe, and we'll see after we talk about the first interview might be a shock to her. Mm. I doubt it, but we'll try to keep it open.
Great. I'm pretty much an open book on a good day, so I feel quite comfortable, but we'll see how we go after the first one.
Sounds good to me. Anything else that we should be talking about?
I don't think so, not from my end.
I'll send you an email that you'll get Thursday morning, like a reminder to do the
Oh yeah.
sampling. So also
Very
note to
good,
myself
yeah.
to send that.
Yeah, true.
And if that time for whatever reason doesn't work out, you should say, I can't do that time anymore.
Yeah.
Or something came up. We should figure it out.
And then, sorry, how many sessions? I think it's like 10 to 12. Is that right? Or am I just however many we need as we go, or it's kind of flexible?
At the end of the first session, we will try to decide whether we should do it again. And then if we answer that yes, then we'll have a second session.
Right. Okay.
And at the end of that session, we'll try to decide whether we should do it again. And if the answer to that is yes, we'll have a third session. How many sessions are there likely to be? I would say, assuming that everybody stays interested, it will be at least 3 and probably more like 6 or 10. But there's no
like set number.
There's no set number. When we get to the place where you are saying, well, this is pretty much like that, and this is pretty much like that, and that's pretty much like this other, and you're saying that all the time, then the chances are pretty good. Everybody will say, well, it's time to. We've got enough glimpses of Kerry's experience that we should call this a day.
Yeah, that we sort of get it.
But if it turns out that there's something that we can't figure out, what does she mean by that? And Kerry saying, well, I don't know what I mean by that either. Then we might want to do more than 10 sessions or whatever.
Exciting.
So that's it. Welcome to the team.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
And thanks for being part of it. It's so exciting for us.
Of course.
I think it'll be interesting.
Great.
All right. Well, I think that answers what we need or transmits what it is that we need. And Kerry, if you do have problems, questions, or whatever about the beeper, do you have my email address?
Yes.
Do I have email?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, we're all on an email thread. And also Julian's he's so quick. He sent through the invite for next week anyway, so it's got everyone's emails on it.
Okay. And we should give Kerry our cell phone numbers in case texts are a good idea for whatever reason.
Sure.
So Julian, you want to do that? Send her an email with everybody's text.
Yes.
Or I guess just with yours and mine. She probably already has Mel.
I think I have Mel's. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well,
sounds good to me.
Unless something comes up, I will see you all next Friday.